Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone to today's IT Hot Topics webinar, where we'll be focusing on SSL VPNs. Thank you so much for joining us. I know a lot of you are out and about. Be sure to stick through to the end, as participants will receive a free trial access to Compass's Borderless Learning Video Library and free access up to 3 hours of Compass's Borderless Learning on-demand technical training. So be sure to stick through, because those are some great opportunities right there for you. My name is Tricia Temple. I'm the Experience Manager here at Field Nation and your MC for the next 45 minutes. With me are guest speakers TJ Arneson and Jules Trono. This is the second session in our IT Hot Topics webinar series with our partner Compass Business Solutions, who provides borderless learning programs so you can learn anywhere. We work hard to investigate and gain platform partners who will bring additional value and insight into our community. We thank Compass Business Solutions for providing today's free training session, and will continue to bring more learning opportunities your way in the future. With that said, let's move forward and keep this webinar interactive. So when you have a question, please submit your questions in the question section of your screen. We will keep them for the Q&A portion of the webinar. And with that, TJ, I'm going to turn the controls over to you.
All right. All right, great. So to start everything off, my name is TJ Arneson. I'm an instructor with Compass Business Solutions. There we go. So I am an instructor with Compass Business Solutions. I have been for all of this year. Before that, I was prior Army, 6 years active duty. But I just acquired a lot of knowledge during that. Mainly the security side of everything was with the military, as you know, very strict about it. So I had a little bit of background with that one as well. But mainly what we're going to be talking about is a background of SSL VPNs, and also what they are and how they can be affected. So to first start off, we really need to understand what a VPN is. What a VPN is a virtual private network. It extends a network that's already established for an already private network, and it's just giving extra links off to it. So I can have outside sources be connected to it. I can have a distant office. I can have a home office. I can have just somebody on the go. They're able to be connected in throughout the firewall, and then able to be connected to their internal network for it. Excuse me. So with this, we get a lot of benefits just from having this VPN established for it. We get the security that we're able to implement from the internal side. We're able to push that out to everyone who's connected on the outside. Within this, the VPN can have multiple forms of this. It can be between two end systems, or it can be linked between multiple systems beyond two systems itself. It can be built within tunnels or encryption on it, so it can be just a straight point-to-point network, as if we just gave them a physical cable, but it is virtualized. Or we could have it to where we have a point of login for it. There is many types of VPNs. However, really the main ones where they get off of it is PPTP, LTTP, or also known as IPsec, SSL, OpenVPN, SSTP, and IPsec's on there twice. Apologize, but that's really just the different types of VPNs. So the main thing that we're going to be talking about is SSL VPN. It is a type of VPN that provides remote access VPN capability using the SSL functions that are already built into a web browser. The SSL VPN allows users from any modern internet browser from any location to launch a web browser, or to have a client that's on the computer as well connect into a VPN for it. So this is having something that's a little bit easier, rather than creating a virtual connection outside of the network for it. I now just need a browser and internet connectivity in order to connect to my internal site network. It also reduces a lot of cost for it, because I only need a laptop with a modern browser and a VPN-enabled router on the other side. So the VPN itself establishes the secure access and connections for remote workers. They enable the mobility from it, being able to log in at any place through most devices at any time. They also enabled it on the road or anything else, and we're also able to include whatever device that we can bring into this. So it gives us that great usability and accessibility from anywhere. We can also control who we want to connect to this and control what they want to access, and also what applications they want to access that are inside the network, such as if they wanted to be on the web browser, if they wanted to have Outlook integration, we would be able to choose what they are able to have through that connection. To kind of understand why SSL VPN is a little bit different is to actually understand what the SSL part means. What SSL is, it's a secure socket layer, and it is a standard security technology for establishing an encrypted link between a web server and a browser. It ensures all the data passed between the web server and the browser remains private and integral. SSL is an industry standard, so it is used by millions of websites in the protection of online transactions within the customer. Whenever you go to Amazon.com and you make a purchase with it, when you're browsing through the website, you're browsing through just regular HTTP. However, when it goes to actually making a purchase or anything else like that, the website then pushes it over to the secure side, which is then using SSL encryption, now hashing out what is being sent across for it. So when you are making that purchase for it, it is kept encrypted, and the data isn't just being passed through the internet to where everyone can see. To kind of show the difference of a IPsec VPN and an SSL VPN, IPsec VPNs being a very common type of VPN, primarily before SSL VPNs came around. They're still used commonly for it, but it's just of how they operate and the different types of connections that we're having on that one. With an IPsec VPN, it is more of just an actual router or a virtual router being on the computer that is operating at the layer 3, the OSI layer. So we all know for the OSI layer, for layer 3, is the network layer. So we're actually giving the network connection a physical connection across from it and then encrypting that data over that layer. With SSL VPN, it is different because it actually operates at layer 4 through 7, and it goes to each layer to secure that information to be pushed across the internet for it. So we don't even need to have the network layer established within it because it is already connected to the internet. So from there, we just really need to encrypt out the transport layer, the session layer, the presentation, and the application layer. The connectivity is a big one too because IPsec VPNs, we can connect remote sites to the entire network for it. However, it is very a long process to set up a multiple amount of connectivities. We actually have to go into the router itself and keep on establishing more and more connectivities, which SSL VPN is a little bit more dynamic because I can say a certain amount of users are allowed to connect with it, and I can also specify what apps and services they're allowed to use. The application side for it, it can support all, the IPsec can support all IP-based applications, but SSVPN, we don't have to support all the applications. If we only wanted certain applications to be utilized, we can throw that in there, such as file sharing or email or any other types of apps in there. With IPsec VPNs, the gateway is usually implemented on the firewall, which does present a little bit of issues there just because of where the placement is between the firewall. Typically, we want just everything behind the firewall because our firewall is our first line of defense. So having the IPsec VPN being on the firewall does present different types of issues versus the SSL VPN being behind the firewall. Now that they're able to have protection on there. Through a security standpoint and the control, IPsec gives a very broad access, which in some cases we don't want to have a physical connection coming in there to where somebody can go around and grab all data, have access to anything and everything through it. Through SSL VPN, we're able to be more granular with this one. We're able to be selective on what they are allowed to do based off of whatever their login credentials allow. And with the endpoints is a big one too because I need to have an actual client for an IPsec VPN versus an SSL VPN. I just need to have a browser and I can have an optional thin client on there too to give me a little bit more access and controls on there. With this one, it's just kind of showing the difference of applications where it would be best. So we have an IPsec tunnel to a small office, this is great for a site-to-site VPN, just because we want to have the network basically extended across, still being secure for it. But this presents an issue over the fact that, you know, we have a whole office over here, but what happens if we just have one person that is just out and about and he needs to connect to the network in order to access the files, to access the email or anything else like that? That's where SSL, secure SSL VPNs really come into play, over the fact that I can have a more dynamic and a more protected connection for it, over the fact that I can say he's allowed to just access the files and just access his emails and the web as well. It is great for on-road access and business applications with it, and it does comply with a lot of regulations for it as well. With SSL VPN, I can have this established on a ISR router just the same as I can have this established on a IPsec tunnel on this as well. With the different types of VPNs, we also have different types of SSL VPNs. We do have 3 different types of modes on here, these being clientless, thin client, and tunnel mode on there. What clientless is, it is a mode that provides secure access to private web resources that will provide access to web content. It's most useful for accessing content that you would expect to access in a web browser, such as internet access databases and online tools to employ the web interface. We also do have thin client, which is a port forwarding Java applet. One, for example, for this one would be like Cisco AnyConnect. The thin client mode extends the capabilities of the cryptographic functions of the web browser to enable remote access to TCP-based applications such as POP3, which is known as Post Office Protocol version 3, so email. Another version of the email being SMTP. We also have IMAP, Telnet, and Secure Shell being SSH. So it gives us a little bit more options, a little bit more control to different applications to use within that network just by having a client, a small client installed on the computer itself. We also do have tunnel mode, and with tunnel mode, it is a full tunnel client that offers extensive application support through dynamically downloaded VPN client for SSL VPN. Full tunnel client mode delivers a lightweight, centrally configured, easy to support SSL VPN tunneling, and the client provides the network layer access to virtually any application for it. SSL VPN has some unique features when compared to existing VPN technologies. Noticeably, SSL VPN uses SSL protocol and its successor TLS, also known as Transport Layer Security, to provide a secure connection between remote users and internal network resources. Today, in this TLS SSL function, it exists in modern browsers, so that way we can just have somebody access it on Chrome, on Firefox, or whatever other type of modern browser we're using for it. Unlike traditional IPsec remote access VPNs, which actually require the IPsec client on a machine before it can even have a connection established for it. Typically, these were done through an IT staffing department. They were the ones that having to build these routers in order to be used for this one, so we had to wait for the routers to be built. With SSL VPN, it is also known as a clientless one or a web VPN, just because we don't have to go in and make all these configurations to something that is already established. An SSL VPN advantage for end users in the outbound connection security for it. Most environments use HTTPS traffic, which is also based on SSL and is not blocked. That means even the particular local environment does not permit outbound IPsec VPN sessions, such as restrictions. That is not unusual. SSL VPN is likely free of such restrictions on there. So we can control what restrictions based off of there, and most internet access is HTTP, but it is open where anybody is able to read it. But once we go to HTTPS using the SSL encryption on top of that, then we are able to send out data more securely. So some benefits that SSL VPN provides is the big one being mobility for it. I'm able to have a clientless VPN established on my device, and within that it gives me a lot of functions and great accessibility for it. I can also have it a web VPN where they are just on a browser and they are in a dynamic session to where they only can access whatever they're allowed to access that is preset up. They're allowed to access that, and then once they're done, the session is now closed for it. The ease of use is that we really just need a modern browser to have an SSL VPN really established from there. It is very easy to configure as well. So with the configuration on there, if an application access requirements are minimal for it, the SSL VPN does not need any additional client software to be installed on the endpoint for it. For more extensive applications, a dynamically downloadable tunneling client is delivered through the client machine to support such SSL VPN capabilities. When using SSL VPN, there are risks that are associated with them. So some general risks that come along with it is user credential related risks, meaning that if I make an easy username and password for it, then I can have that issue be presented for it as well. Another one is because I am using a machine that is dynamically allowed to access the network on its own will for it. The issue with that one is that I could be on the internet and accidentally access a malicious site, and once that malicious software is installed on my computer for it, when I connect to my work network through that SSL VPN, it can spread these viruses and everything through it, just as if we took a machine from the outside and brought it into our internal network and plugged it into the wall. It is very similar to that one in the fact of how fast a virus, worm, or Trojan can spread into that internal network. We also have to worry about split tunneling as well. And split tunneling takes place when a computer on the remote end of a VPN simultaneously exchanges network traffic through with both a public network and the internal network without placing all the network traffic inside of the VPN tunnel. Provides an opportunity on the shared network to compromise the remote computer and use it to gain access to the network, to the internal network. A host-based firewall is an effective way to defend against this one. Many organizations, though, have disallowed split tunneling, so it is something that can be taken care of. Another couple of issues that we can have it is, since we are using a host computer for it, if they're not up to date on the latest security software, that could present issues on there. So using a very modern and newer security software is preventing a lot of these issues on there. The actual physical access of these machines. If I have my SSL VPN open on it and somebody just is able to access my machine, they now have access to that internal network. A big one on this one as well is keystroke loggers. And what a keystroke logger does is it just sits on the computer and it sees every key that you press for it, and is logging this information. So now I know your username and password for it, username and password for any files that may be in there as well. Also what website you're going to, what IP address you're going to. I see all that information because of that keystroke logger that can be installed on a computer for it. So I now have access to your network because of I now know every key that you type to get into there. Within this, because it can have access to multiple things in there, I can lose sensitive information and intellectual property for it. With this one, I can lose username and password because without even being connected to my VPN for it, if I had such malware installed on my system, they were able to go in there and see, commonly used username and passwords, saved username and passwords on there as well. SSL VPN is also is also at risk for man-in-the-middle attacks. What a man-in-the-middle attack is that the attacker actually intercepts the traffic to capture the credentials and other relevant information. The attacker then uses this information to access the actual destination network, and during this process, the attacker serves as a gateway. So he basically presents himself as the gateway you're presenting this information to, and then he go ahead and he sends it for the actual gateway. What this is doing is he's now seeing all of the traffic that is crossing in between this. So depending on the sophistication of the malware or the malicious proxy or gateway for it, actions can be taken in the internal network can be gained for it. So the information that's sent back to the user, he may say, hey, yeah, it's not available. However, I see that on my side, I am accessing this and it is available for it. This attack typically works when a user does not properly verify he or she is connected with the real SSL VPN hidden website. The general corporate user typically does not have sufficient knowledge to read and verify an SSL certificate belonging to the appropriate party, and then often just clicks yes and accepts whatever is along with that certificate. And when he does that, it normally is done permanently. So some kiosks, public machines, or anything else that has poor web browser security settings or even no security settings, that certificate just appears suspicious for it, but it'll generally just go through it. So it is important to know what an SSL certificate looks like. Another one is hardware limitations for it. So if I don't have, for like certain two-factor authentications mechanisms like smart cards, they don't work with certain public machines for it. So like some kiosks may not have the necessary hardware for it, like a USB port or anything else where I cannot plug in such as a card reader, or if it doesn't have the correct drivers on there as well. So that now we presented some of those risks, let's see how we can take care of them. So the big one being is security policies and strong user authentication. That has just been, since computers were made, it's always been a way how to get into them. So the biggest one is placing stronger policies for it and creating longer authentication for it. It may take extra time to learn that password that has 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase, 2 special characters, and not forming an accurate word for it. However, it then presents itself as a better security option, though. Another one is the host identity verification. There's a difference between trusting a user after passing the user authentication and trusting the user's computer for it. While the former has traditionally been emphasized, only recently has the latter been given a sufficient attention for it. So actually having the trusted platform module. As we talked about earlier, a Trojan-infested computer defeats a strong user authentication, but a company computer, which is typically supported and managed by certain corporate security policies, it doesn't deserve more than a non-company computer the trust over that one. So a secure SSL VPN infrastructure should allow you to verify the host identity for it by checking on the predefined end-user parameters for it. So I'm able to look at the registry entries for it, special files in a specialized location, or a digital certificate, which is a form of device authentication for it. The host identity information can be used to make your access permissions decisions as well. Another one being the host security posture validation. So once a remote computer is allowed to access the VPN, it becomes an extension of your organization's network. The host network, to protect this endpoint device, is vital to protect both the data residing on the host and the connection prior to your internal network connection. Your SSL VPN infrastructure should be able to validate host security posture by examining version of antivirus software, your personal firewall, service updates, security patch levels, and possibly customized scripts and files on your computer as well. The validation on this one is critical to ensure the compliancy with your security policy and standards set up by your corporate office. Another one is having a secure desktop. So with the secure desktop, what do you do if your computer does not meet your security policies and standards for it? A major SSL VPN benefit to allow users to VPN in any form of a internet-based computer. Many of them are non-company assets that typically would not meet your security policies and standards. So to solve this dilemma, recent SSL VPN products provide the ability to create a safe or sandbox or secure desktop on the remote computer. This secure desktop is typically protected from other processes on the computer and has an on-the-fly encryption file system. Malicious codes, even if they are present on the computer, are not able to access the content secured in this secure desktop. This type of implementation also helps ensure that the data will be erased in a secure manner at the end of the session. Another one is cleaning out the cache. So all of that saved data that's been in there, accessing that SSL VPN should allow deletion of all traces of the session data from locations, browser history, temporary files, and cookies for it. So cleaning the cache on the computer greatly mitigates the risk of leaving sensitive information behind. Another one is having keystroke logger detection for it. So malicious codes that are also known as keystroke loggers can be detected before a user even starts the VPN session. Recent SSL VPN products offer such security features, and they allow keystroke logger detection before a user session is performed. Be aware, however, that different vendors may offer varying degrees of success and efficiency. They're most powerless in dealing with hardware-based keystroke loggers, however. Another one is actually checking the configuration of your SSL VPN product. So this one, you would want to go in and check out your session timeouts. So seeing if they're unable to have a certain amount of time to the network for it, if they are not doing anything on the network, what time are we going to set this timeout? It's typically set to 10 minutes or less for it to reduce the opportunity for unauthorized personnel to gain access to your network via public computer. So after a certain amount of time of not doing anything on there, we just want to close out that session. Another one is verifying the version of SSL that you're using for it. So the SSL server function of VPN concentrator must be configured to either reject SSL 2.0 connections and any ones before that one. A lot of the security flaws that were fixed with that were upgraded whenever they created SSL version 3. We can also do our certification support to create that SSL TLS tunnel to prevent server spoofing, so to actually prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. The VPN concentrator should be installed on a server certificate chained to the corporate root certificate authority. Alternatively, you can use a security or a server certificate issued by a trusted certificate authority. And the big one being handed out is actually using the user education and security awareness. So actually having classes from the IT staff teaching just regular users. You know, these are common things, especially if you're on the VPN. You know, not to go to malicious websites. Understand the corporate security policies and standards that are set beforehand. So user knowledge is a great thing to help defeat a lot of these risks. Lastly, we're just going to sum everything up for it. So the big things that a VPN can provide is productivity enhancement, improved availability, and IT cost savings for it. It enables companies to put remote working solutions into place most cost efficient, particularly as it applies to mobility and bring your own device. SSL VPN security does have security challenges for it, but a successful VPN deployment and operations will involve managing the security risk while supporting the business needs for it. And for some sources of reference for it, we do have app.fieldnation.com, Compass, compassprogram.com/blog, compassprogram.com/courses, lmsborderlesslearning.com, cisco.com with their SSL VPN security file that they had on there is a great resource for it. We also do have imcca.org as well. So within that, we're going to go over to the questions and answers, and I am going to hand this over to Jules.
All right, thanks so much, TJ, and thanks for putting that together. We really appreciate you spending the time to put the information together for everybody. If you'll take a minute, TJ, to look at the questions that have come in the Q&A
Sure.
panel, in the questions panel, and anybody who's on the call right now, please go ahead and start posting your questions there in the Q&A panel. TJ will approach them one at a time, get through everybody. While he's taking a quick look at that, I want to bring you up to speed on some of the programs that we put together for the Field Nation community. TJ, if you can forward to the next slide, or Tricia. All right. So some of the questions that we've gotten back from the Field Nation community over the past month since we've launched the relationship is we need a little bit more flexibility in how we access training. So we put together some great programs for the Field Nation community. We call them borderless learning programs so that you can learn anywhere. So the primary programs give you live virtual classes for many different things: CCNA, route and switch, security, CompTIA classes, project management, Microsoft Server classes, SharePoint. We'll go through the different programs and where those fall. The live virtual classes are 6 3-hour sessions. They're twice a week for 3 weeks. So what you can do is look at the calendar of events, determine where you want to participate, and anytime there's a live class going on, you can join it. Even if you haven't been to session 1, you just want to attend session 3 because you know those are the topics you need to know, that's fine. You can go as many times as you want during your subscription. The subscriptions are annual subscriptions. And with that, you also have Anytime Learning electronic courses. So you can go in and see all of the information that was delivered during the live classes is available as electronic learning with some interaction. Some of them may have labs where you can access virtual labs, go through and really get familiar with the interface. And the best thing about these programs is they include 24/7 mentoring for the IT topics and business hour mentoring for the desktop and business topics. So if you happen to be reviewing an electronic session and you have a question, you can ask an expert, and they're available 24/7 to you. You can also, if you need to earn a certification, access a practice exam. So for $500 a month or $5,400 a year, you can access any one of the 4 networks, servers, virtualization, or project management and leadership programs. Or for $900 a month or $9,000 a year, you can access anything in all of them. TJ or Tricia, if you'll click forward.
Sorry about that.
Nope, that's okay. So you'll see BLP Networks, what's included in that. So Borderless Learning Program for Networks has CCNA Route and Switch, CCNP Route and Switch, security, all of those down. The servers focuses on server technology, particularly Windows Server, SQL, CompTIA Networks Plus, SharePoint Exchange. And then virtualization, if you are working on a lot of projects that have to do with providing virtual environments for your clients or building cloud services, look into the virtualization program because that's what it's focused on. Project management and leadership, of course, covers the PMP project management as well as CompTIA's Project Plus, but it also includes a lot of classes on leadership and management and dealing with complicated people and making sure that you can deal with conflict and how to lead a team. All of those great skills are included in those programs. TJ, if you move forward.
There you go.
So if you find that you think you won't be able to participate in the live virtual classes, there is an on-demand program for a little bit less that does not include the live component. The thing you have to be careful about is it also does not include the labs. So if you don't need the labs and you don't need the live virtual, look into the on-demand program. On-demand programs have more options in terms of specializations, and but it also includes the mentoring. And the mentoring, I think, is key. It's really important as you're going through your learning process to be able to reach out to a live person who knows what they're talking about and kick around an idea and brainstorm and ask a question and get an answer. So that's available in these programs as well. $250 a month or $2,700 per year. The Super Scholar, which includes business, desktop, and IT, is $500 per month or $5,400 per year. TJ, if you'll advance. You can see in the specializations how it separates everything out, gives you a few more options in terms of things that are important to you. The thing that we're seeing right now that's huge is this cybersecurity. Happens to be a very, very hot topic for every customer that we have out there and all of their employees and contractors. So definitely take a look at that one. You can take a look at any of these. And when we send you out the link to this recording, we'll include the link that shows you where you can go compare and contrast the different programs. TJ, if you'll move forward. The final set of programs we call video library programs. These are not intended to help you earn certifications. These are reference libraries. Think of it like lynda.com on steroids. So it's not just the desktop things, you know, how to use Word and Excel and PowerPoint, but it's a lot of IT hot topics, Six Sigma in particular, which is very important, especially on the federal side of our customer base. So you can take a look at these. These are reference libraries, $29 a month or $300 per year, but if you want both of them combined, $49 per month or $525 per year. These videos that are in these video libraries are all 3 to 5 minute learning lessons. So you pick a topic that's important to you, the one thing that you need to know, you go watch a 5-minute video on it rather than trying to sort through an entire class and pick up a topic. That's what the video libraries are intended for. So TJ, go ahead and move forward. Everybody who's participated today, and there's been about 65 people on the call today, will receive an email next week with instructions for a free trial to the Borderless Learning Video Library. So those are the 5-minute learning lessons. There's about 20,000 videos available to you. And you'll also get a free trial to session 1 of the Borderless Learning On Demand CCNA routing and switching. It'll give you a chance to go in and see how the programs work, what it's like to join a live class, how to use the electronic learning, how to access the labs, how to open a chat with a mentor. So everybody who's participated today will get access to those, and we appreciate your attention and your attendance today. TJ, I'm going to let you advance one more there.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and answer some of those questions I took a look at. So the big one I've seen is basically what product lines or who's some big names out there. Really some big names are out there. Cisco is being one of the big ones. F5, Barracuda, Juniper is also up there too. They each have their own product line for it based off of different needs and what type of SSL VPNs that you wanted to have access for it as well. So to really get down and gritty to which each product can do, it's really deciding on which competitor to choose from that one too. So it's really based off of what situation and what you're wanting to get out of it.
One of the things, TJ, if I can jump in, one of the things that you want to be careful about as you're looking at SSL VPN solutions, please remember that the user community expects everything to work, whether it's data, email, accessing a program that's hosted at a company location or in the cloud, video, interactive video, or receiving a streamed webinar. They expect it all to work. So as you're putting together the SSL VPN solution, keep in mind that some things are more complicated than others, and video in particular. It's an expectation now that people will have access to video, two-way video, and once you get there, you've got a higher processor requirement in your SSL VPN network. We recently went through this ourselves. We've got in enabling additional lab capability for our remote students, and what we found is even though the products clearly claim that they can, provide so many concurrent sessions, we really had to boost up the model number to one of the higher levels in order to get the processing power we needed to make sure that everything we needed worked. So when your client says, hey, I want to enable this for 25 concurrent sessions, okay, that's great, but you really need to dig down in and make sure that you find out, from them what types of applications are going to be used, and there's things that they're not going to be thinking about, like video. It's one of the things that gets forgotten a lot. We found the ASA product line is a great product line for that from Cisco. All of the major vendors that TJ just mentioned, they all have things that will apply to that, but you have to make sure that you ask the right questions as you're specifying. Sorry, TJ, back to you.
No, that's great information. Thank you very much, Jules. One thing to also mention, too, is I've seen on there what is the best operating system for VPN. On the fact of SSL VPN, what a lot of the competitors have done is they made availability to any operating system. So like on our ASA model that we have for it, we have availability for Windows users, for Mac users, even for Linux users. Because it is installing a thin client onto there, such as like the AnyConnect, with that one we were able to establish connections on any type of operating system. Because the main thing of SSL VPNs over different types of VPNs is I want to have my computer work with this. Well, I don't know what computer you're using, what operating system you're using, but I want to be compliant with it. That's where the user just says, hey, I want my device to work with it, so we want to make it availability to everybody for it.
TJ, I see a question in here. Is the normal default config to block all access or allow all access?
So that is something to keep in mind as well. Generally, think of it just as if a firewall connection for it. In a perfect world, a firewall would block every port possible, so we wouldn't even be able to talk. So that's the best way to prevent security issues, is basically block everything off. However, we do need to access the web. We do need to access, HTTPS. So we have to enable it, but it's best to give functions and give applications when needed. So unless if they really need to have access to like the web server, have access to the email server, to different types of applications or anything like that, it would be best to give that on a per base notion, just saying, hey, these users are allowed to do this, and based off of what type of user for it is. If we're having somebody who just wants to use certain features on there, we only want them to use those certain features. We don't want to give them access to everything. And that is one thing where SSL VPN configurations differ from like IPsec configurations, with the fact that we can be granular about that.
Great. And the next question there is, with the man-in-the-middle attack, did you mention it would get access to your credentials? Would they also have access to the data as well?
Yes. If they are sitting there within that credentials on there too, they are basically, it's just as if somebody was standing right behind you, typing that information from it. It does take a level of skill to actually initiate a man-in-the-middle attack for it and actually understand what the data is being processed at. It is being processed encrypted. However, there is a way to defeat that encryption, and that's also another question I had on there too, and I will come back to that one. But that level of encryption is important as well, because if it is a lower level encryption for it, or if that data is being hijacked with that man-in-the-middle attack, then they are able to see that data along with your using credentials for it as well. Speaking about that encryption side for it, I did see the question in there about the algorithms. They are coming out with more and more algorithms. I know AES 128-bit encryption has been a set standard for it. And it takes it even takes the strongest supercomputer. I think it was something like a couple thousand years, couple million years, somewhere around that range. It takes it a long time for it actually to crack just that encryption for it. And they've even started jumping up to being extra secure, such as AES 256-bit encryption is starting to become more and more prevalent on newer products.
Perfect. Thanks, TJ. The next question is about CyberGhost, is if it's considered a thin client. Have you used it at all, TJ?
CyberGhost, I have not used it, and that is one thing about VPN technologies that they've grown in different paths and and different products for it. So honestly, I have not heard of CyberGhost for it, so I would not know if that would be considered as a thing because I don't know what application that would be used.
CyberGhost, for those that don't know, CyberGhost basically gives you a way to protect your online privacy to surf anonymously. So you're basically VPNing into their network, and then they're masking everything for you. So I have no idea, what people are saying about it. But if anybody does, go ahead and post the information here, or we'll post everybody's questions and answers in our blog. And when you get the link to where everything is, you'll also have a link to that. If you've got an opinion on it, post it there.
All right. I do also see another question on there as well, and it's asking, does SSL VPN make a machine more susceptible to keyloggers? And with that question, I definitely would say yes, only because having that mobility of everything, that means I can be on and off my network. So when I'm off my network, I could be going into certain websites, doing things I'm not supposed to be doing, like torrents or all those other stuff you're not supposed to do. But when I start getting this malicious malware on my computer for it, I am basically taking my work computer on and off the network for it. So when I do bring it back on the network, it is susceptible to having that keylogger on there, especially now because I wasn't attached to the network and I didn't have the certain security policies established on my connection. So it is one thing that is more susceptible because I am allowing any user with any device to connect as long as they have the proper credentials.
TJ, isn't the keyloggers, isn't that mostly applied though to public machines?
It can be applied. It can be malware that can be downloaded on a computer as well, especially if it's on a public machine. That is where I would be very, very cautious because on that public machine, there's two types of keyloggers. There are physical keyloggers and there are virtual keyloggers. The virtual one is a program that's designed to see the communication that you're typing for it and send it off to another distant end, whoever wants to receive that information, whether they're sending it to their computer or to a server, wherever they want to send that information for. It is easier to detect because it is a program that is installed on your computer. A actual physical keylogger is something, especially if you are at a library, if you are at a public device anywhere, I would be very cautious using your SSL VPN credentials, only because that physical keylogger is different because it is saved onto that physical connection where it doesn't have to be sent out to the internet. It doesn't need to have a script. You're actually just plugging something in between the keyboard and the computer itself, and it is saving every key that you type into that physical keylogger.
Got it. Thanks. Let's take this one last question, and then anything else that we missed, we'll put them into the blog and post the answers there. Abe asks, it seems to me from this presentation that IPsec is more time-consuming to set up. Does that mean it's more secure?
IPsec is it's secure through a different level. It's not necessary that it is more secure on the fact that it is operating at a different OSI level because it is operating as a network level. So none of these sessions, transport, anything else is really involved for it. It is basically as if I virtually gave you an Ethernet cable and you were plugging your computer into that. It is more time-consuming to set up for it. However, within that, it does provide access to anything and everything securely over the network layer. The only reason why it would be less secure than a SSL VPN is because I'm giving access to anything and everything. You are basically putting a computer within my network. IPsec and SSL VPN can be used in conjunction, so we can say if we wanted to have a distant office, if we just wanted to have them to have all that physical connection, an IPsec would be a great route to choose because you were given that network capabilities over to that distant corporate office or a different a distant office instead of actually having each one of them log on through SSL VPN.
All right.
Secure. My bad.
Okay. So if we can turn this back over to Tricia, and she can tell us a little bit about some things that are happening right now with Field Nation and seeing them at Dreamforce.
Oh, thank you, Jules, and thank you, TJ, for that fantastic presentation and Q&A session. I think our from the number of questions we received, it sounds like it's a hot topic, no pun intended. So thank you so much for that. As Jules mentioned, before we go, let's quickly cover what's new and notable at Field Nation. Field Nation will be attending and presenting at Dreamforce next week in San Francisco. Hosted by Salesforce, Dreamforce is one of the largest events in the U.S. So if you're attending, email us at social@fieldnation.com to schedule a meeting. We'd love to see you in person. And we're very excited. We have recently released the new mobile app for iOS, which enables service companies and independent contractors to conduct and complete their work on site and on the go. In less than 2 weeks after the launch, we have over 1,000 users to date and are getting rave reviews. So if you haven't already done so, please be sure to go to iTunes.com and download the free Field Nation app today. Again, I'd like to thank Jules and TJ for today's presentation. Jules and TJ, do you have any final words you'd like to say before we close the session?
Nope. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Happy answering the questions, and thanks for showing up.
All right, thank you. This is going to conclude today's presentation. Thank you for all who attended and who will be listening to the recording. Have a great day.